We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
Welcome everyone to the Best Damn Podcast. I am your host, John Keane. As always, I'd like to thank you guys for joining me. Ask that you please add, follow, and check us out, www.thebestdampodcast.tv. Follow me Instagram and Facebook, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn, and wherever you're watching from, make sure to hit the like, give us a thumbs up, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and share this link. That way new people can find this. Also, make sure to subscribe. Click all on the notifications bell. That way you guys get all notifications in the future. Check our astrology videos, our tarot videos, and if you would like to book your own personal tarot reading, the information in the description box down below. Also, consider donating and supporting to the channel. I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. I did get a little bit of a late start, but we have got a good one for you guys. Tonight we're going to be talking about the new and up-and-coming World Economic Forum. 2023 is supposed to be like, the biggest of all of the economic forums over the past few years. So I think we can see why too, right? With Klaus Schwab, the Great Reset, and where we're just kind of going as far as economically resetting, socially, with the cataclysm that we've kind of seen taking place, geopolitically all over the globe. Right now we're heading in a total new direction, so it's like really, I think, important to see all of these world leaders coming together, talking about the future of, the global civilization, in which direction we are heading. Also, we're going to be talking about the latest COVID news. Very obviously, we can't get to too much stuff on the public platforms, so make sure you guys get your own personal subscription and check out the private stuff, where we get a little bit more into detail. But tonight, we're going to be looking at that and just seeing where, we're going to be expounding on some of the information that we talked over the last few days, right? All these athletes dropping over dead, all of the technology kind of pushing to, the fifth generation, and tracking being done under the skin. Now, we also have Comet ZTF. This is the first of its like in over 50,000 years. They say it's coming from the Oort cloud. This is coming within January and February. We're at perihelion now, so it's the closest to the sun. And in February, it's going to be the closest to the Earth that it's been. You can already see this from the night sky, right? They said you can see it with the naked eye or with a good pair of binoculars. I do have some video showing what I think is probably Comet ZTF out there. It kind of reminds me of the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, though, Don't Look Up. So we're going to be looking at it as well tonight. California climate, extreme wind, extreme floods, natural disasters happening. It's almost like on the daily there on the West Coast now. Does this have something to do with the Cascadia subduction zone? Is this part of the geoengineering and weather modification agenda, or is this something different altogether? I'll let you be the judge. And the Biden documents, right? We've seen Mar-a-Lago, Trump, and just kind of how much pressure was put on, the right side politically, and Trump hiding all of these documents, these sensitive documents from his time as the president. And now it's coming out that there is a lot more, and especially looking at the damning statements that we had in the last video from President Biden talking about how he would never do anything like this, how careless it was, how unprofessional it was, and then come to find out this motherfucker has got documents, and you can see it in his Twitter feed, right? It's got like pictures on Twitter, and you can see the documents sitting in a box behind his car. So, I mean, you know, I think this is going to be real interesting to see how all of this develops. We're going to look at that as well. And AI consciousness, gene editing. This is all part of the transhumanist agenda, and this is where we're going to start with an article out of Futurism. Scientists say they're now actively trying to build conscious robots, and I think we could see things going this way for quite a while. We've seen talk of, through the data mining and all of that, especially through social media, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, all the different data mining, that they were trying to kind of build something to copy our consciousness, something that would allow us to transfer our consciousness and kind of live forever, right? And then we see with fifth generation technology and the Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies, and technology kind of going underneath the skin. This is the I guess the logical transition that we would make. It says, quote, "If we can create a machine that will have a consciousness on par with a human, this will eclipse everything we've done." And it's got the little iRobot looking picture here. Just to give it an extra creep factor. It says 2022 was a banner year for artificial intelligence, and particularly taking into account the launch of OpenAI's incredibly impressive ChatGPT. The industry is showing no sign of stopping, but for some industry leaders, chatbots and image generators are far from the final robotic frontier. Next up, consciousness. This topic was too taboo. Hod Lipson, the mechanical engineer in charge of the Creative Machines Labs at Columbia University, told the New York Times, quote, "We were almost forbidden from talking about it. Don't talk about the C word. You won't get tenure. So in the beginning, I had to disguise it like it was something else," he said. And he's like, I had to disguise it. Consciousness is one of the longest standing and most divisive questions in the field of artificial intelligence. And while to some it's science fiction, and indeed has been the plot of countless sci-fi books, comics, and films, to others, like Lipson, it's a goal. One that would undoubtedly change human life as we know it for good. This is not just another research question that we're working on. This is the question, the research continued. This is bigger than curing cancer. If we can create a machine that will have consciousness on par with the human, this will eclipse everything else we've done, he added. That machine itself can cure cancer. Of course, the biggest issue is that the industry runs into the question of consciousness, and that other than technological challenge that it would be undoubtedly be, is the fact that, well, concept itself doesn't really have a firm definition in the field or beyond it. Philosophically, consciousness is a vague and debatable, and scientifically, as the New York Times notes, efforts to tightly nail consciousness down to specific brain functions or otherwise signifiers tends to fall flat. There are also a number of deeply ethical questions that arise with just the concept of machine consciousness, particularly related to machine labor. And it's like, I can only see kind of like the future liberalism surrounding working robots and how unethical it would be for robots to, be doing hard labor and shit like that. I guess you guys can kind of already see where this is going. So for his part, Lipson had his own definition of consciousness as being the capacity to imagine yourself in the future, as explained by the New York Times. Thus, the engineer has focused a great deal of his career on working to build adaptable machines, generalized intelligence that can learn to evolve by machine-learned natural selection, responding in kind to changing environments and errors, injury within the mechanical body. In other words, a machine with the ability to not only learn more and correct responsibly, as machines do now, but a machine with the ability to imagine how it might be better and evolving to suit that vision. It's a slight distinction, but an important one. It's like I really, I tend to go in the direction of thinking like, how far will this go once this is achieved? If we can actually achieve consciousness within artificial intelligence and these robots, we already have things like killer robots. Well, imagine creating conscious killer robots. Do they have, a conscience when it comes to killing people? Are they able to make the same moral or morally valued based decisions that we make now in acts of war and statistics? Or does it become something totally different? Do we then start to do things like Sophia, the Saudi Arabian robot that was given citizenship in Saudi Arabia, right? So like after they have citizenship, then they have rights. So after they have rights, then we get into a whole other level of shit. And it's like, then you start comparing human consciousness to artificial consciousness, and where do you draw the line? And it's like the transference of consciousness. And this just kind of takes us to that whole technocratic, kind of artificial dystopian future that we've seen in books like A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, right, where you have like gene editing and people are no longer born, but they're grown in labs. They're designer babies, and certain humans are genetically designed for specific jobs and specific labor forces, and so on and so forth, and and then it just kind of tears at the fabric of society, because you have the equivalent to a human being being in the form of an artificially intelligent robot, or you could transfer your consciousness into a robot and live forever, bringing us into godhood. And we were just seeing that in yesterday's video, talking about COVID-19, the Great Reset, right? And we had the Israeli advisor to Klaus Schwab Duval talking about all of this, saying like the next phase is under the skin, right? It's through electronics, and we already see this happening through the Internet of Bodies, the Internet of Things, right? 5th generation technology, and we're moving to this faster, it seems, by the day. Brilliantly analyzing their personalities, people thought an AI was brilliantly analyzing their personalities, but it was actually giving out feedback randomly. This is a very important lesson here, and this is like AI being able to respond intelligently and now start to give feedback to people based on their personalities or the personality types. It says Myers-Briggs Astrology, BuzzFeed quizzes tell you what kind of bread you are. And sure, filling the line with a personality test is usually pretty harmless, but according to a new study published in the journal Consciousness and Cognition, so we're seeing the AI consciousness kind of theme recurring here, our willingness to believe existential personality label makers may have serious implications for the ongoing rise of both brain-computer interfaces and AI. So to test how effectively they could trick individuals into identifying with the BS personality subscription, an international team of Canadian and Swedish researchers used social media, where astrology, pop psychology, and other personality ascribing systems are prevalent, to recruit 62 participants who are under the impression that they were testing a new type of neurotech that, according to the study, could accurately read their thoughts and their attitudes. To begin our hoax scenario, we intended to build participants' trust in the machines by pretending that it could decode their preferences and attitudes, the study authors wrote. The systems included a sham MRI scanner, an EEG system that supposedly used neural decoding driven by artificial intelligence. Per the research, the fake system was relatively elaborate, and the procedure featuring the three main phases: basic brain reading, human error detection, and attitude feedback. During phony phase, each participant was asked to evaluate how much they agreed with various personality and opinion-related prompts. The fake system, meanwhile, falsely worked to accurately decode answers that they held unconsciously in their brain and can be decoded from neural activity. In other words, participants were made to believe that using advanced neuroscience, the machine could tell them what they thought, not just how they thought. And according to the study, participants ate the results right up, convinced that the machine knew better than them, or better than they knew themselves. As the machine seemingly inferred participants' preferences and attitudes, many expressed amazement by laughing or calling it cool or interesting. For example, one asked, "Whoa, the machine inferred this? Oh my God, how do you do that? Can we get more of these?" None of these participants, they continued, voiced any suspicion about the mind-reading abilities of the machine throughout the study. Now, while the researchers did note a few caveats to their work, the fact that no one voiced any suspicion about the machine's efficacy and how it worked, it was really capable of reading minds, is indeed spooky. It certainly says something about the willingness of humans to be categorized, particularly by a force outside of themselves. And I think we see this very prevalent in more than one area of life. It doesn't just boil down to statistics and technology and artificial intelligence and us wanting to allow computers and different programs to tell us what classification or what group we belong to, what statistic we're a part of. This is also religion. It's us wanting an external God, an external deity to rule over the affairs of humanity, to have control over the affairs of our everyday life and our path, essentially, right? It's like we need something to dictate our lives to us, to tell us that we're not in control, to tell us that we're not responsible, to tell us that we do not shape the future and we are not responsible for the past. And I think that this is more and more prevalent now through technology because it's more and more convenient. So it's like we're replacing God with AI in so many ways in our society today. It's not even funny. And we see this slow kind of social engineering taking place through none other than social media, right? And just the kind of way that technology is kind of taking over. I think most humans are more and more comfortable with machines telling them what to do than ever before. So scientists say they gene-hacked mice to double remaining lifespan. And this is like a big thing, right? The gene editing and gene hacking through CRISPR technology. Now they're saying they're able to double the lifespan of mice through the simple gene hacking and gene editing. So San Diego-based biotech startups Rejuvenate Bio is making a major claim that they'll likely draw heated scrutiny from the scientific community. That is, technology was able to significantly extend the lives of elderly mice. According to a yet-to-be peer-reviewed paper, and by yet-to-be peer-reviewed, this means other people haven't looked at it, so it's biased. Scientists at the company says an injection that regenerates genes in the bodies of senior mice effectively doubled their remaining lifespan. MIT Technology Review reports. In tests, the company found that the treated mice lived on for another 18 weeks on average, and those who were not treated in a control group only lived on for another 9 weeks. Overall, they say the gene-hacked mice lived roughly, 7% longer overall. The treatment works by exposing the mice cells to various proteins which are usually found in early stage embryos and alerting their genetic properties. Japanese biologist Shinya Yamanaka came up with this technique in 2012, which earned him a Nobel Prize. So this Nobel Prize winner has essentially come up with this technology that through gene editing and gene hacking has allowed him to extend the life of mice, and we can see where this would, become beneficial to human beings as well, right? We already see like the whole designer baby thing now. It's like you can create the perfect child in the womb, right, through gene editing, CRISPR technology. Well, now you can extend a person's life through gene editing and CRISPR technology. This is the whole transition, right? This is us moving into transhumanism. And that's why I wanted to start with all of this, because this is kind of like the whole beginning of the end. People that are familiar with like biblical prophecy and all that will know the mark of the beast. And it talks about how people would worship the image of the beast in the last days. And I believe that image, which is a phantom, a projection, an illusion, And we are an image, made in the image of God, right? The image of the beast being man, the carnal number 666. An image of ourselves would be artificial intelligence, right? It'd be AI. So biotech penile implants let pigs get erections again. And I had to throw this one in because if they're doing it on pigs, then they'll be doing it on people. And we know that like they already use like pig hearts and shit like that. It says, in what appears to be a major breakthrough in the quest to treat erectile dysfunction, scientists in China, and there's been like a major increase in that as male reproduction rates have dropped by, you know, quite a few percentage points. We actually talked about that in the last video, how you know, there's a male sterility problem going on right now, and there's already been a female sterility problem taking place before that, right? This is all part of the depopulation agenda. It says, in what appears to be a major breakthrough in the quest to treat erectile dysfunction, you can attribute that to, you know, GMOs, genetically modified food, pesticides, and, you know, all different types of chemicals and hormones that are being placed in our shit now. So in China, successfully restored normal erections in pigs with injured penises by way of bionic tissue transplant. Yes, you read that right. Count your days, little blue pill. The biotech dicks have arrived. As detailed in a study published in the journal Matter, the researchers, a team of biomedical experts at the South China University of Technology, centered their project on the tunica albuginea, a tissue in the penis with a direct role in erections. Millions of people suffer from erectile dysfunction, and roughly 1 to 5% of those people suffer specifically from Peyronie's disease, a condition in which scar tissue builds up in the aforementioned tunica albuginea tissue, resulting in erectile pain and thus erectile dysfunction. This research, the scientists hope, will ultimately restore erections in humans suffering from Peyronie's disease and others injuries to the tissue. As for how the bionic penis will actually works, it is surprisingly simple. Using a hydrogel material, the scientists were able to develop biocompatible artificial version of the layered tissue dubbed ATA, or artificial tunica albuginea. This was after a series of experiments involving detached pig penises, rat skin, and rabbit blood, but we digress. Inspired by the delicate strain adaptive structure of natural tunica albuginea, reads a study we proposed an artificial tunica albuginea ATA composed of a strain stiffening hydrogel consisting of aligned yet crimped fibers. To prevent transplant rejection, each hydrogel patch was scrupulously crafted to perfect match its real-life counterpart. The pigs were finally then fitted with a patch, and the results were seemingly quite extraordinary. According to the study, most of the pigs were soon able to regain normal penis function. ATA displays the capability to repair injuries and restore normal erectile function with the TA damaged penile tissue in the pig model. The paper continues, our study demonstrates that the ATA has a great promise for penile injury repair, and this is with hydrogel. Hydrogel is something that we've seen in the jab, right? And it's water soluble. It actually has the ability to absorb every water molecule within the body. So it goes within every crack and crevice within the system whenever it's injected directly into the bloodstream. So we see this now in contact lenses. We see this now in things like erectile dysfunction medicine. It's like in everything, just like we see everything kind of shifting to the mRNA jabs. So. But this is the way or the direction that things are heading, and they're always going to use something that we care about. You know, that's why you always see like different topics or subjects, like, oh, this is for children, right? Keeping kids safe, or this is to protect you from being sick, or this is to keep you safe in some way, because we're always going to accept it that way. And that's how they're able to roll out new technologies or experimental technologies on the masses, right? Just like we've seen with C-19, right? So, startup trying to test whether people on DMT experience a shared alien universe, and I have always heard this. I have done DMT, myself, but I won't lie. I don't know if I just didn't get high enough, but I didn't see the machine elves like everybody else sees. But I have heard of many people talking about that experience of seeing the machine elves or an alternate or parallel universe or reality whenever they experience DMT. And dimethyltryptamine is actually released from the brain whenever we're born and whenever we die. So, do androids dream of mechanical elves? I guess we'll find out. It says, known as the spirit molecule to psychedelic enthusiasts, dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, is said to produce vivid and strangely similar hallucinations for many who take it. Now, an extended study, or an extended state version of the powerful drug, may help psychonauts stay there longer than ever before. And we've also heard of a lot of the satanic ritual abuse, right? People using dimethyltryptamine to stay in like states of alternate consciousness, like for long periods of time, 5 to 10 minutes of periods of time, and like even using drugs to stop their hearts. That way their brain would produce massive amounts of dimethyltryptamine, right? And then they would come back like with the real society and they'd say, hey, you know, I spoke to these aliens and they told me about this technology, and that's how we get a lot of our technology that we have today. A lot of people don't know that, but that's how a lot of these occultists come back with the information that we have in our whole scientific community now, right? So it says, now an extended state version of the powerful drug may help psychonauts stay there longer than ever before. Among the eccentric goals to see and document whether people are actually entering a shared alternate dimension when they take the stuff. It says, as the New Public reports, the Colorado-based psychedelic startup Medicinal Mindfulness is currently seeking approval from the Food and Drug Administration to study what it's calling DMT-X, an extended state of intravenous drip version of DMT that will induce end users trips far longer than the roughly 5 to 10 minute experience the drug typically provides. And that's what I experienced, right? I smoked it a few times, and I had 5 to 10 minutes of the experience. And I've seen other people, you know, as well, like on YouTube videos and shit like that, around something very similar. DMT carries with a ton of intriguing qualities, including that studies suggest our brains produce the drug naturally, because it does, during birth and death, and that those who have taken it often experience variations on the same theme, entering what seems to be another plane or dimension, replete with its own ethereal beings, sometimes referred to as the machine elves, who are there to welcome them. You know, and it's like, when we look at like the old lore, too, or the mythology from many of the ancient cultures, elves are a big thing. That's what we would probably call demons, right? Just saying. So maybe there's some truth to it. It says, while the overwhelming majority of people who have taken DMT report a positive experience, the relatively short trip length means that any contact people claim to have with these beings tends to not last too long. Confusingly, however, aficionados frequently report that those short trips feel like hours. Because it's timeless, right? You're in a parallel dimension or a parallel state of consciousness. With DMT-X, however, medicinal mindfulness is hoping to lengthen the trip via IV drip to hours or even days, which would, they hypothesize, make it last an untold amount of time on the other side. You would live out your whole fucking life on the other side, basically. And as of now, DMT is legal only for specific government-approved research purposes in the U.S. Those states like New York and Colorado are looking to legalize it further as researchers and New Age types continue to praise its therapeutic and spiritual uses. And it is known to be used, guys, for meditation, for initiation. I mean, it's a huge spiritual drug. And as David McQueen, the co-founder for the Center of Medicinal Mindfulness, the key organizer of the DMT-X program, told TNR that some of the experiments the group hopes to achieve following FDA approval will look into whether two people hooked to IV drips in different rooms will be able to communicate inside the drip. All, of course, under medical supervision. And this just sounds fucking dope to me. The fact that we are going to this level, and really tapping into. I love consciousness, I love spirituality, and I love alternate dimensions, perception, reality, and alternate states of consciousness. And I think it's beautiful that it's now becoming accepted in society. Like back in the 60s when they were doing all the LSD shit with Timothy Leary. It's like we're kind of going down that road again to where we're exploring other possibilities, other realms. I feel like this is a lot healthier than 5th generation technology and artificial intelligence, right? And finally over here, we have the CRISPR research says gene editing isn't playing God. Gene editing isn't playing God. I think a lot of fucking people would disagree with that statement right there. Right? Gene editing isn't playing God, but whatever. And make sure everybody in the chat room, guys, everybody's in the chat. You hit that fucking thumbs up for me. Hit that like for me. It really does help with the algorithms. Make sure you're commenting, and you're sharing the link. And, if you appreciate what we do here on the channel, donate and support PayPal, Venmo, Patreon, Cash App, or Facebook Messenger Pay. YouTube, Facebook, subscriptions, or book your own personal tarot reading information. Description box down below. Just want to throw that out there. Check our astrology and our tarot videos too, guys. It says the CRISPR researcher says gene editing isn't playing God. I think those of us who contribute to the field aggressively believe it is the right tool. But now, the real challenge is, how do you use it properly? CRISPR, the gene editing technology developed by researchers Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier, who won the Nobel Prize for their achievement, is a remarkable, almost otherworldly innovation. The tech's applications, both imagined and realized, are nearly endless, building on decades of research in the field of gene therapies, and officially unveiled back in 2013. CRISPR allows researchers to alter and repair genes in virtually every living thing, humans, plants, and animals all included. It had an incredible success fighting genetic afflictions like sickle cell, and could even be a helpful ally in the fight against climate change. It says, by the same token, CRISPR raises serious ethical questions. It paves the way to profoundly altering ourselves, other species, or even entire ecosystems. Like many other powerful and complicated tools, in other words, it has a bit of a PR problem. Genetic manipulation, after all, has remained a steady narrative driver, and often a cautionary one, in the realm of science fiction. And the onset of gene editing in practice, put into hyperdrive by CRISPR's success, has spawned a number of valid concerns. Some wonder whether expensive designer babies, genetically engineered by the 1% to become the next athletic superstar or top model or Albert Einstein, will soon inherit the earth. Others wonder if gene editing is one of humankind's many ways of playing God. Again, certainly all valid, game-changing achievements in health, tech, and elsewhere should face interrogation, especially in areas not only like to have profound impact on the future of medicine, but which still trail a sordid, complicated past. American genetic research has historically been unkind to black and brown folks, as exemplified by the story of Henrietta Lacks. But at the same time, some of the critics, particularly the playing God argument, so often invoked against gene editing, might actually be distracting from its real, available, and very much life-saving application. It's not whether CRISPR is the right tool. Dr. Eric Kamek, PhD, Executive Director, Chief Scientific Officer at the Gene Editing Institute of Christiana Care, a community health system in Wilmington, Delaware that combines conventional oncology with genetic counseling, told Futurism, I think those of us who contribute to the field aggressively believe it is the right tool, but now we continue. The real challenge is how do you use it properly? And I think that's always going to be the question, right? It's always going to be unfair to those of us who have the natural genes, the natural defects, right? And I think the whole designer baby thing, it's like we're going to see where this goes. This is obviously the next frontier. This is obviously where they're taking things with the whole transhumanist agenda. This is obviously where we're pushing things going forward and in the future. So we're going to see, it's like many people are going to fight against this, but many people are going to fight for this. And I think it's going to come a lot sooner than most people realize, or most people think it would, moving forward. And this is, and I just want to say, it's like, no matter what you think is possible, at this point, I think you should see that anything is possible. It's like, they want to push this narrative. They want to push us in this direction. They want to push us in this direction because this is the way they want to take things. And then they control who's who does what, right? If they control, the genes, the genetics that you hold. They can design you to be the labor force. They can design you to be a leader. They can design you for whatever they want. They can design you to be a slave if they want. That's right. And it's like, that's when we get to the ethics of all of this. And it's like, what's involved? Is this ethical? When it comes to, humanity and what direction should be going. Alright, report. CIA infiltrated Watergate break-in as Nixon threatened to leak CIA involvement in the JFK murder. The CIA was a step ahead of Richard Nixon. Nixon was aware of the CIA's involvement in the JFK assassination, but he might not have known that the CIA was involved in the Watergate break-in. A stunning report by Roger Stone at Stone Cold Truth indicates that Nixon knew the CIA was involved in JFK's assassination, but may have been unaware it was also involved in the Watergate break-in. It's like, I find this very hard to believe, that the president was aware that the CIA was involved in killing JFK, but wasn't aware that it was involved in Watergate, right? Like, a lot of these guys are Freemasons and Satanists and all this, and they, they have very deep connections to the intelligence. As Roger Stone released a shocking report yesterday related to President Nixon's knowledge of the CIA's involvement in the JFK assassination and the CIA being involved in the Watergate break-in. The stunning, long-overlooked Nixon-Watergate-era tape shows Richard Nixon warning CIA Director Richard Helms that he knows of CIA involvement in the murder of John F. Kennedy. I know who shot John. The shocking new tapes depicts increasingly besieged by Watergate, but unaware that at least 4 of the Watergate burglars were still on the CIA payroll at the time of the break-in. So that just shows you it was the CIA who actually did this. And the CIA had thus infiltrated the burglary team. Recently declassified documents reveal that the Watergate Special Prosecutor Nick Akerman was aware of both the CIA's advanced knowledge of the involvement in the break-in, but did and said nothing. And that just shows you, dude. Right there. They were involved in it from the very fucking beginning. The break-in was probably their idea. It was probably setting up Nixon just like they set up Kennedy, just like they killed Kennedy, just like they do everything that we see taking place today that's corrupt. From crisis acting to school shootings to so on and so forth. Right? You take your shot. I mean, it's a lot. Biden economy. Inflation still at 40-year high. Core prices increase on a monthly basis in December. Wages down 21 months in a row. And this is fucking huge. It says a report on inflation was released this morning by the BLS, and it shows the price of goods in December is 6.5% greater than the price of goods a year ago. And this is just, we told you that the economic results would really start to show in 2023 because of Biden's economy and things that took place in 2022, and now you're starting to see it. I don't know if anybody's surprised by any of this, but it's like, brace for impact. It says core prices increased 0.3% on a monthly basis in December after going 0.2% in November, as overall prices rose by 6.5% in a year-over-year, matching investor expectations. Energy and gas prices declined, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So, yeah, it's like everything's increasing, and we know there's an attack on gas right now, and, anything that's not electric. Wait, what? Charges dropped against D.C. climate activists for assaulting police officers 3 times. Only Trump supporters get time. Over 900 Trump supporters have had their lives ruined by the FBI, the DOJ, and the criminal DC courts for their actions on January 6, 2021, 95% of these patriots did nothing more than walk inside the U.S. Capitol when they were asked to. Dozens of men and women who are being held behind bars for attending the rally. Several of the individuals had confrontations with police. Several were arrested and jailed for 2 years for non-violent crimes. It's too bad they don't identify on the left. The court dropped this week charges against Kevin Kramer, 27, after he assaulted police officers and resisted arrest at a climate protest in October. You know, and it's like, oh my God, and this is the video Kramer screaming profanities in the background. Let me make sure you guys have sound here. It looks like you do.
Get off of him! Get off of him! Get off! Get off of him! Get off of him! You fucking bitches! Get off of his head! Get off! Oh my God, you're on his fucking neck! You're on his fucking neck! Fucking bullshit! Y'all are fucking assholes! Fuck you, Jason!
Yeah. So, I mean, you see, they're throwing a shit fit about that, you know? But it's like, all of the people on January 6th, were they really arrested? You know, or was that part of, you know, Operation Trust the Plan? You know, where they had fake police officers on January 6th, where they were spraying fake fucking pepper spray in their faces, you know? Where actors were being paid to say that, you know, there were riots, and actors were being paid, you know, and they had fucking plexiglass, you know, in the windows, you know, ready-made to bust out, or Jaden Smith filming it all, or the exploding blood packets of the people who allegedly were injured and shot. You know, I don't know. But it's like, this is not the same. And the CIA is always involved in something like this, too. You can see. It's like they're throwing a shit fit about this, but it's like we've seen this time and time again. These are psychological warfare operations, fam. It says in Ukraine, there's something happening there. The 60s band Buffalo Springfield had a hit song that I think captures the dramatic developments in Ukraine and Russia over the last 36 hours. There's something happening there. The collapse of the Ukrainian resistance in Solidar was confirmed by some of the staunchest reporters or supporters of Ukraine, which means that Bakhmut is expected to fall under Russian control in the next few days. Russian forces are moving from the south, the north, and the east and are creating potential cauldron that will leave Ukrainian soldiers and Bakhmut surrounded. Russia's defense ministry announced yet another realignment of the commanders leading the war in Ukraine on Wednesday, and the criticism mounts over its handling of the stalled campaign. It said that General Valery Gerasimov, chief of the Russian General Staff, will become the overall commander of the campaign, with the current commander, Sergei Servakin, becoming one of his 3 deputies. Mark Gelati, Senior Associate Fellow of the Royal United Services Institute, said it's kind of a demotion, or at least most poisons of chalices is now on him, and I suspect Putin has unrealistic expectations again. You know, it's like, this Ukraine shit, this is just really a big fucking money laundering scheme for the United States. We've seen this be used by social media to push the pro-war agenda over there time and time again in the anti-Russian rhetoric. Time and time again, the anti-right-wing rhetoric, time and time again. It's like, it's not going to stop now, you know. They're going to continue to push this because this is the direction they want things to go. Schiff sure seems worried about the new House Committee on the Weaponization of Government. Of course he does. Says now that the House has established a committee to investigate the weaponization of government, one man seems particularly worried. Adam Schiff is betraying his sense of panic by speaking up loudly about what an awful idea this is. Why do you suppose he's concerned about this? Democrats decried that the subcommittee is the result of the stalemate during last week's speaker vote, which gave a group of far-right detractors significant power to wield in the new House Republican majority in exchange for their support of their neutrality Quote, today we have the first of their many demands on display, an open-ended investigation into whatever conspiracy theories may be headlining the right-wing echo chamber at the moment with unchecked authority to undermine ongoing criminal and intelligence investigations, Republican Jerry Nadler of New York said, the hardline conservatives' influence on the conference. Moresa Democrats insisted on Tuesday that Republicans would use the panel to attempt to shut down ongoing investigations into their own wrongdoings, perhaps in a nod to Republican Representative Scott Penney of Pennsylvania, who has expressed interest in becoming a member of the committee despite being a subject to the Justice Department's January 6th investigation into the insurrection at the Capitol in 2021. Dan Goldman in New York said the panel's primary purpose is to interfere with the special counsel's ongoing investigation into the conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election. So it's like, I think it's all distraction, it's all bullshit anyways, and all nonsense. They don't care about that election, they don't care about January 6th. They're either side of the aisle, right? And the right wing and the left wing, the red and the blue, it's two wings to the same bird. I don't see how people don't get that at this point, but for some reason, people think that if you vote right, somehow that, you're voting pro-American and you're voting pro-Constitution. It's just absolute insanity. Both sides, they all, at the end of the day, they all have the same master. There is no lesser of two evils. They're both just fucking evil. Not a joke. Republican Congressman Joe Wilson wants a bust of Zelensky in the U.S. Capitol. Now this takes the I support the current thing meme to a whole new level. Supposed South Carolina Republican Congressman Joe Wilson is so enamored with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that he wants a bust of him in the House wing of the United States Capitol. This no doubt makes other members of the Uniparty extraordinarily jealous. Dan Crenshaw is probably punching walls and wondering why he did not think of this first. And it's like, I would only hope that this would be a joke, but I don't think it is. And it's like, the Zelensky shit and the superstar treatment that he's gotten, absolutely fucking crazy, but it's like, that's what's to be expected. We use this for political gains. It's always politically motivated. So it's like, and you guys seen with all the rebuilding that's going to be taking place in Ukraine. A lot of people stand to make money off of the support of Zelensky. So yeah, that's really why. Moving forward, Quid Pro Joe. Penn raked in $54 million in anonymously earmarked Chinese money when it launched Biden Center. Old Joe's cut $1 million. On Wednesday, Joe Biden told reporters that he was a professor at Penn after he left office in 2017. This came after news broke that classified documents were found in a closet at the Penn Biden Center linked to Joe Biden in November before the 2022 election. The Department of Justice, the same group that set up the Trump-Russia scam, are allegedly investigating.
They set up an office for me, secure office in the Capitol. The 4 years after being vice president, I was a professor at Penn.
I was a professor at Penn. Yeah, bullshit. According to the RNC, this is at least the 17th time Biden has told this lie since he became president. Biden was never a professor. Biden and his associates raked in hundreds of thousands of dollars to essentially do nothing, while millions in anonymously earmarked Chinese money flowed to the university. That's so fucking funny. I was a professor at Penn. No, you weren't, bud. History in the making! The state of the New California holds its 10th Constitutional Convention. The state of New California is holding its 10th Constitutional Convention starting tomorrow. The state of New California is gearing up for statehood. This idea seems strange until it was mentioned that following this is precedent. The state of West Virginia was formed during the Civil War when citizens of the new state didn't agree with the unconstitutional actions of the state of Virginia, which seceded as formed a new country. The courageous men and women in West Virginia stood strong and created a new state according to the U.S. Constitution. The new state was granted statehood during the Civil War. The new state of California is following the same model. The state of New California shares the following on its website. The U.S. Declaration of Independence of 1776, the Alta California Declaration of Independence of 1836, and the Sonoma Proclamation of 1846 declared the right of the people in the states of Alta California and California respectively to throw off the bonds of tyranny. The current state of California has become governed by a tyranny which rivals those expressed in the above documents. Therefore, the United States Declaration of Independence of 1776, the Constitution as adapted in 1783 by the Congress of the United States of America, and the Alta Conference Declaration of Independence of 1836, the Sonoma Proclamation of 1846, and the California State Constitution of 1848 mandate the right, the responsibility, and the duty of the people who are suffering the long train of abuses and usurpations at the hands of tyrannical government to abolish and make new government by the people and for the people under God. And I wonder how they're going to do it under God in a state that is godless, right? But they are pushing this, and I wonder if any more states are going to follow. After we see all of this. California is just on some whole other shit. It's like, I see, so much to this point. I'm never surprised anymore, like, at the shit that California does. Demons in our midst. Jerry Nadler argues taking babies to hospital who survive abortions to save them endangers the baby. Republican Jerry Nadler argued on the House floor that taking babies to the hospital who survived the abortion procedure endangers the baby. Democrats prefer the abortion doctor let the baby bleed out on the table. Representative Jerry Nadler, the problem with this bill is not that it makes anything. It's not that it provides any new protection for infants. The problem with this bill is that it endangers some infants in saying that infant must immediately be brought to the hospital, where depending on the circumstances, that might be the right thing to do for the health and survival of that infant, or it may not. That is the problem with this bill. It directs and mandates a certain medical care which may not be appropriate, which may endanger the life of the infant.
The problem with this bill is not that it makes anything, that it is not that it provides any new protection for infants. The problem with this bill is that it endangers some infants by stating that that infant must immediately be brought to the hospital, where, depending on the circumstances, that may be the right thing to do for the health and survival of that infant, or it may not. That is the problem with this bill. It directs and mandates a certain medical care which may not be appropriate, which may endanger the life of an infant in certain circumstances. That's why we oppose this bill.
Yeah, that's why we oppose this bill, right? And it's like, wow. So they're making the statement that babies should just die on the table. What the fuck, right? Of course, that makes sense if you are a baby hater and a fucking creep, but I think a lot of people are going to have a problem with that, So Silk of Diamond and Silk threatens to sue far-left bishop for claiming her sister, Lynette Hardaway, died of C-19. Here you go. Silk, the Diamond of Silk duo, threatened to sue a far-left bishop for claiming her sister, Lynette, died of C-19. Anita Lynette Hardaway, a.k.a. Diamond, passed away at her home on Monday evening. She was 51. The world just lost a true angel and warrior for patriot, for freedom, love, and humanity. Please respect the privacy of the Diamond family. Memorial Company to be announced. The Diamond and Silk Twitter account posted on Monday night. And it says the cause of death was not released, which that didn't stop Talbot Swan, a hate-filled so-called pastor, from attacking Diamond and her family. Lynette Hardaway, a.k.a. Diamond from the MAGA Trump-supporting duo, Diamond and Silk, died from contracting what she called a hoax, better known as C-19. The so-called pastor, Talbot Swan, said, "The irony is palpable," he added. And this is his tweet here. Bishop Talbot Swan, Lynette Hardaway, a.k.a. Diamond from the MAGA Trump support duo, Diamond and Silk, died from contracting what she called a hoax, better known as C-19. The irony is palpable. And it says Silk, a.k.a. Rochelle Hardaway Richardson, threatened to sue Talbot Swan. It says, quote, "Well, it looks like we have another lying mofo who calls himself a bishop but acts more like a bitch ass," Silk said on Twitter. "Where's your proof that my sister died from contracting C-19? No proof plus no truth equates to a lawsuit," she said. Silk gave the pastor until midnight to retract or face a lawsuit. You have midnight to retract this shit. Wow. Nice. Good for her. That bitch ass motherfucker. You know what I mean? It's like, honestly, he don't know shit. It's like, I can't stand people that just make crazy claims on Twitter anyways, like no matter what side of it you're on. Michigan. Hamtramck City Council ox Islamic animal sacrifices at home to appease Muslim community. And this is a weird one, y'all. It says Michigan. The Hamtramck City Council on Tuesday voted to okay Islamic animal sacrifice at home to appease the Muslim community. Dawood Walid, the director of the Terror Tide Council on American Islamic Relations, or CARE, Michigan chapter, said of the animal sacrifice, "It's not something new or novel. This is when Muslims recognize Abraham sacrificing a sheep instead of having to sacrifice his son," Walid said. According to the Detroit Free Press, more than half of the 28,000 people living in Hamtramck are Yemeni or Bangladeshi. Hamtramck Council approves the animal sacrifices at home. It says residents of a Detroit area community with a large Muslim population can sacrifice animals at home for religious reasons. The Hamtramck City Council explicitly approved the practice 3-2. Tuesday, another step in recognizing a cultural shift in a city whose 20th century history was shaped by Polish immigrants. Muslims often slaughter animals, typically goats or sheep, or pay someone to do it for them during the holy holiday of Eid al-Adha. Meat is shared with family, friends, and the poor. The Hamtramck Council in December had voted to continue a ban on animal slaughter, but reversed course, at least for religious reasons, after legal advice and objections from people who follow the Islamic faith, the Detroit Free Press said. So if somebody wants to do it, they have the right to do their practice, Muhammad Hassan said. So, there you go.
Tonight will allow the religious sacrifice of certain animals under strict conditions.
It is often practiced among Muslims during the holiday season known as Eid, or breaking of the fast. 7 Action News reporter Brett Cast is live in Hamtramck tonight with the debate and the decision on this. Brett.
Well, Dave, this decision ultimately came down to the Supreme Court in a case from 30 years ago out of the city, a city in Florida that ruled that prohibiting religious animal sacrifice is actually a violation of the First Amendment. But
you know, it's like I don't care. I love to see the First Amendment protected in any way, shape, or form. But it sucks that you see it protected for something like this, but it doesn't get protected online for people like myself. Right, speaking what they think. You know, it's considered medical misinformation if we even speak about something like COVID. So, President Trump's documents held at Mar-a-Lago were legit, but Biden held classified intel that went against the law. When did the DOJ know? So, here we go. This week it was reported that the deep state Department of Justice knew that Joe Biden, while Obama's vice president, maintained super classified documents at his office at the University of Penn, where China had donated millions of dollars. This information comes after this past summer, where the DOJ raided President Trump's home, stole the president's documents, and accused the president of illegally maintaining classified information against the law. The FBI continued its attack against President Trump after he left office with the raid of seizing of some of his documents, and the president maintained there. These documents were secure. They were his, and they were legitimately there. But the president has a right to declassify records. President Trump did so before he arrived in Mar-a-Lago and kept the documents safe. There was no need to raid the president's home. Some believe that the FBI took documents from President Trump that implicated the FBI. Fast forward to this week, documents were found at the Biden office at Penn University. The documents held very sensitive information that could get people killed if in the wrong hands. China donated millions to the facility at Penn U. Joe Biden was Obama's vice president. He had no reason to maintain these top secret documents as VP, and he did not have the authority to declassify these documents. He committed crimes by holding this information in such a non-secure environment. You know, I think it's really crazy, especially seeing the comments that Biden was making after, you know, President Trump and the shit with Mar-a-Lago. You know, it's like, I think it's very interesting, you know, to see that he's now in a similar situation, one that's probably actually a lot worse than what Trump was in. So, Israeli right-wing MK calls to arrest leftists for treason as leftists call for civil war. A Knesset member of the MK of Israel's new patriotic government has called for Israel-hating leftist politicians to be arrested for treason because they are talking about civil war. A far-left former MK called for a large-scale civil uprising. Returning Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called for a softening of public disclosure. And I knew as soon as this motherfucker started creating another government and was coming back into power, things were going to get crazy in Israel. And it's like, I'm not surprised. You know, it's like 2024, Trump's coming back too for the United States. I wonder what we're going to see here, you know, when all that happens. You know, one can only really imagine, right? Video, Neil deGrasse Tyson exposes himself as a big pharma corporate shill. Neil deGrasse Tyson, a shill? Say what?
Of COVID to what we know today. What do we know about the vaccine today that we didn't know while we were all testing it in America, taking it? What have we learned now?
What do you mean testing it on America? There were tests before it was released.
9 months is not a long time to test.
No, but it was tested.
Yeah, but 9 months. The average is 30. The average is 5 to 10 years. I mean, 9 months is not enough.
Okay, so you have to
test.
No, you have to ask. Hold on. It was tested in trials. Okay. By the way, I'm not claiming to be the expert on all this. I read all the same things you have, but I'm a scientist, so I read it as a scientist. Okay. There were trials. That's what the point of phase 1, 2, 3 trials are all about. They are tested enough to get data on how to then advise the larger population. Yes, it was tested. For you to say it wasn't tested is a gap between your awareness and understanding how things work and what actually happened. It was tested. If you want it to be tested on millions of people instead of thousands, you can put in for that. You can say, I don't want this unless it's millions. That's okay.
Totally fine with me.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
That's fine. So based on that, do you say, let's keep testing it while the virus keeps spreading? Okay? Right. So this is the contest between the information you have available to you at that moment and what's going on outside the lab. People are dying. Hospitals are becoming overloaded. So, do you say, we have good data on the 1,000, it's not yet at 1 million in case you wanted 1 million. Are you going to say, let's still do it on let's wait another 6 months so we get another 1 million in here? Will you do that as a public health professional?
No, I would have said allow the individual to still have a choice that's okay with 1,000 instead of a few million. Leave the person have the choice. Not force him to take it or else you're going to get out of the Marines and you've been doing this for 14 years. Not force him to take it or else you have to quit your job as a nurse.
There's a public health
force versus
there's a
choice.
There's a public health contract that you have signed implicitly as a citizen of a country where in part we depend on each other for health, our wealth, our security, and the like. And that contract is, in the best scientific evidence available at the time, if you do not get vaccinated, you will put other people in this organization at risk, and that organization does not want to take that risk. So you do not have this job anymore if you decline it. So with any public health decision, there has to be a consequence to you not participating in that social contract. Is it your job? In some cases it was. But no, we're not going to have the Army bust into your home and force a needle into your shoulder. That's not going to happen.
We pretty much did that.
Well, only put your job at risk, yes.
Yeah, 67% of Americans took the COVID. That's force. That's not a choice. That's a lot of force and coercing and pushing going on. But you can't go to the school unless you're vaccinated against mumps. I think that's bullshit.
That's a different.
And I think that's bullshit, is what he said. You know, it's like I do want to state, as I have had to state in like my last 5 videos, just because I want to be able to continue to make videos for you guys. I really do love doing this. I'm not a health professional. I'm not giving out medical advice. I do want to state that my last video did get a strike on my backup channel. My backup channel now has 2 strikes, guys. You know, it's like we're not allowed to talk about this whatsoever, right? I'm taking a risk even by showing you something like this. You know, so this shows you where the debate or the public debate on all of this is gone. There's no such fucking thing. Alright? There's no such thing. The only thing I can say is, yeah, you had the choice of not to work or whatever, but at the end of the day, you know, this was something that a lot of people were coerced to do, and it was kind of pushed onto the public, and it's like, now we're seeing a lot of stuff come out that we're not allowed to talk about, but a lot of stuff is coming out about all of this that would make people think that, you know, maybe we should have, you know, taken our time, you know, maybe thought about this a little bit better, you know. Maybe we should have perhaps considered all of the options when it comes to this, you know, or maybe we should have done research on more people than what we did. Maybe thousands wasn't enough, you know, maybe it needed to be millions, okay? You know, but like this is what people are starting to consider, and it's like, I don't know how this goes on, but it's like I watch other channels on YouTube and they talk about this all the time, okay? And they're allowed to talk about this all the time. But anytime I even bring it up at all, I get hit with a strike. I get censored. My videos get stalled out. I've even seen my video views go backwards. So it's like, this is why it's so important to push the truth out there, to get more awareness out there. I'm asking all of you, make sure you're hitting the thumbs up on these videos. Make sure you're commenting. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following all the social media and all the content platforms. And you know what? If you really appreciate this work and you enjoy what I do, then donate. Support the work. The links are in the description box below. And if you want something back for it, then book a personal tarot reading. But it's like, you know, nobody else out there is really bringing the truth. So, you know, it's like we got to be careful on how we do it. If you want something uncensored and if far more detailed about this, then join us on Patreon or join the Best Damn Fam. So the giant fireball was seen shooting across the Texas sky Tuesday night. The American Meteor Society received 146 reports about a fireball seen over Texas and Oklahoma around 6:45 p.m. Tuesday. From Houston to Fort Worth, Texans across the state reported spotting a massive and bright light streaking across the night sky Tuesday. Some thought it may have been a shooting star or even leftover fireworks. It happened so fast that others questioned if they actually saw anything at all. Turns out the mysterious blazing sky phenomena was a fireball. The American Meteor Society said it received 146 reports about a fireball seen over Texas and Oklahoma 6:45 p.m. Central Time Tuesday. A map of the non-profit scientific organization shows the bulk of the reports came from Central Texas. ABC 13's chief meteorologist Travis Herzog also received reports of the sighting and asked his followers on Facebook to share footage they captured of the unusually bright meteor and submit their first-person accounts to the AMS. Let's see if we can see. I don't see any, right here. Let's see if we can see it. There it is, I think, in the back of the night sky. This is the American Meteor Society event. Right there. That was really short. Really short, matter of fact. These are different videos of it too. You can see the flashing in the top video. That's so quick, guys. Yeah, it's like most people didn't even catch this. It happened so fast. Every sunspot wants to flare. It seems like every sunspot on the sun wants to flare. In the past week alone, 3 different sunspots have produced X flares, or even more crackling with M flares. With unstable sunspots scattered across the face of the sun, the chance of geoeffective flares today is greater than 70%. Comet ZTF at perihelion. ZTF 2022 E3 has been in this hot 50,000 years. Today, January 12th, the comet makes its closest approach to the sun at only 1.1 AU away. And you can see the image of Comet ZTF. I'm going to show you another image here, too, of ZTF. This is the closest to the sun, January 12th. This is the closest it's been in 50,000 years. And I've got some video of what I think may actually be ZTF. It says Don McCullers originally wrote this article, for our sky. Comet ZTF reaches perihelion, its closest point to the sun on January 12, 2023 at perihelion. The comet is about the Earth's distance from the sun at 1.11 astronomical units. Later on February 2nd, the comet, and I have surgery on the 2nd, the comet will reach its closest point to the Earth at 0.29 astronomical units. Here's the good news. January and February are prime times to view the fuzzy, icy visitor from the outer solar system. And you guys can see the images. Now, I want to show you a video. Alex Lujan actually posted this earlier today. Let me make sure this is muted. Of a comet, right, that he had captured, that a viewer had sent in to him. Take a look, though. Very interesting, to say the least. Let's see if we can go forward here. Right there. Look at that. People capturing comets in the sky. I wonder if this is Comet ZTF, in fact, right? That's being seen by Alex's viewers. And everybody in the chat, make sure to hit the thumbs up for me. Everybody in the chat, hit that like, guys. It helps more people come to the chat and more people be able to see us and see what we're doing. But it's like very interesting that this is being caught by many other places too. Well, you have it here. So, right here. There's a close-up on the comet right there. You guys can kind of, like I said, I can't imagine it being anything else, but you never know. A lot of people believe there's a Planet X, a Planet 9, something else out there. We also have NASA revealing 5 asteroids, including 260-foot rock, dashing towards the Earth. Asteroid 2022 YZ2 has red flagged asteroid named 2022 YZ2 due to its extremely close approach to the planet. The asteroid has a width of 260 feet, making it nearly as big as a building. It'll make its approach today at a distance of 6.4 million kilometers per hour and the speed of 23,714 kilometers per hour. Asteroid 2022 YD5 will make a close approach today. Also, this asteroid is nearly the size of an aircraft with a width of 150 feet. Its close approach will be at a distance of 3.1 kilometers and a speed of 38,184 miles per hour. And asteroid 2022 YS5, or 130 feet, will make its closest trip on January 13th, 5.9 million kilometers. And this will be a little slower at 21,517 kilometers per hour. And then finally, asteroid 2014 LJ, another asteroid named 2014 LJ, is heading towards Earth, make a close approach on the 14th of January at 1.8 million kilometers. And this is about the size of a bus with a width of 22 feet. And it's a distance of 1.8 million kilometers. And finally, the last but not least, asteroid 2022 YH3, the fifth and largest, will be a size of 280 feet. And asteroid 2022 YH3 will be making its close approach on January 14th. It'll come as close as 7.2 million kilometers. And this is going at a speed of 58,573 kilometers per hour. So we have 5 asteroids in the next couple of days coming in along with this comet as well, right? So I think, there's a lot of interesting things happening, when it comes to what's taking place in the heavens, guys, and, we're going to see how kind of all that works out, right, when it comes to the heavens, and if this is Planet X or, some type of, crossing or something that's taking place. It says, now there's no question anymore. The civilization is just ending. It just is. Now relax. I think a lot of people feel that way, right? That civilization as we know it is, it's coming to a close. It's like wrapping up, especially when you look at all the prophecies. It says, your daily dose, natural disasters. Isn't it ironic? While the U.S. birth rates reach record lows, Mexican president celebrates 40 million Mexicans in the U.S. Warrior of Light, Miss Ukraine, national costume on Miss Universe. The apocalypse.
Ukraine! This Warrior of Light costume symbolizes Ukraine's fight for freedom. The Warrior of Light protects her country like Archangel Michael, who is a guardian of soldiers and considered to be the patron of Kyiv, the capital city. This Warrior of Light will help in their fight, Ukraine.
Excuse me. As if it doesn't get better than that. Ukraine's money laundering, fucking World War III starting ass. A psyop that it is, having Lucifer, as their representative. And the Miss Universe shit, I don't know if you guys seen, 6 countries that are 80% white, all had black people as Miss Universe. This shit's just so crazy with the political correctness now. I don't know. Doom and gloom. India set to overtake China as the world's most populous country. I think I have an article on that one here. Let's see if I can pull it up. Jesus Christ. It's this shit doesn't get any crazier than this. The stuff we're seeing this today, wow, I'm not even surprised. Sorry, guys. I'm not surprised at all. India is set to overtake China as the world's most populous country in the next 3 months. UN reports about 1 in 4 of India's 1.41 billion people are under the age of 15.
Buying a car from Vroom is so easy. All you need is...
So, as a report from the UN suggests that India will become the most populous nation in the world, surpassing China in the next 3 months. That's pretty soon, dude. Honestly, that's really soon when you think about it. India taking over. Did Japanese killer robots murder 29 scientists?
Hello there. So, a while ago I uploaded a video talking about the allegations made by the conspiracy theorist Linda Moulton Howe on a terrifying incident that took place in a Japanese robotics lab where 4 autonomous robots killed 29 scientists before they could finally shut them down by dismantling them completely.
At a top robotics company in Japan this week, 4 robots being developed for military applications killed 29 humans in the lab. And they did it by shooting what he called metal bullets. I didn't know there was any other kind. The scariest part is that lab workers deactivated 2 of the robots, took apart the 3rd, but the 4th robot began restoring itself and somehow connected to an orbiting satellite to download information about how to rebuild itself even more strongly than before. And this next sentence is a quote. I'm writing this down. I've been doing this for years. This is serious, Linda, but you're never going to hear about this in the news.
A lot of viewers were skeptical, while others did not rule out the possibility of this actually happening. So I found this clip from an interview she did after the fact, where she explains in detail how she got this information and who was the whistleblower that actually conveyed this news to her in the first place. In the clip I'm about to show you, she also talks about how Elon Musk knew about these kinds of experiments and how he warned the world before this incident even happened.
July, August of 2017. In the prior year, I had been communicating with a Marine who had retired from the Marines but was working special forces. And he had been communicating to me about a number of ET-related revelations, secrets that he and a team of special forces were involved with. And so he had kept in touch with me, usually through short texts, or every once in a while, he would call and say, you're tapped, I'm tapped, I'm only going to speak for, and it would be like 30 seconds or a minute, and then hang up. And I understood why, and that was what we were doing. Well, it was in August of 2017. The phone rang, I picked it up. I knew his voice. Can't stay on the line long, but I want you to know that this week, which would have been second week of August 2017, in Japan, 29 humans were killed in a laboratory that was producing militarized robots by the Japanese for warfare. And then he went on to explain what he had learned, because they're in these units, that something like that would happen, so they would receive information. And he said that the story was the 4 militarized robots were being made to be autonomous warriors. And that they don't know why, but the 4 rebelled or acted autonomously, and as they acted autonomously, they killed 29 humans in this lab, and whoever was left on the human side began pulling, this is the way he said, they began pulling the robots apart. They got 2 of them completely disassembled, were working on the 3rd, and then the analysis later was what happened with the 4th. The 4th was communicating with a satellite that they were teaching these militarized robots how to communicate with the satellites to get information on missions, and that the 4th robot was now extending up to the satellite and was searching for information about how to make itself stronger to take on, apparently, the remaining humans. What did they do exactly to that 4th? I don't know, but I understand they took it apart. Would they ever put them back together? So now, we're up to a point in August of 2017 where I'm hearing a story that is shocking, and I would say is like a warning that hits you out of the blue, that if in August of 2017, 4 militarized robots being taught to be autonomous could do that in a lab, it made Elon Musk, only 2 months before, in June, at the Rhode Island Governors Association meeting. There were 33 governors from the United States, and Elon Musk was one of the invited speakers. And when they sat him down in a chair, and they started asking him his perspective as being head of Tesla and SpaceX, he said, I think that the greatest problem that scares me the most is artificial intelligence. And he said statements like, people don't understand that the robots, they are not going to need sleep. They're not going to need sick days. They're going to be able to do everything better, faster, more efficiently, and smarter than humans. And then he went on and he said, I am convinced that artificial intelligence right now is an existential threat to this planet.
Artificial intelligence, an existential threat to this planet. I feel like the theme of this show, really, has been that we are seeing kind of, and it's like when we take all of the evidence, especially, you know, the Trump administration acting as this controlled opposition party, right? Something like we've seen akin to the Bolshevik Revolution, the Russian Revolution, you know. The world wars have had this tendency to replay the story over and over again. And when we look at the letter to Mazzini, 1871, by the father of Freemasonry, Albert Pike, we see that the world wars were this designed social cataclysms to take the population into this evolution of the new world, right? This Aldous Huxley, George Orwell dystopian future, right, that would be brought on about the Freemasons, the Illuminati, right, these kind of, you know, this new world order. One world system, one world currency, one world government, one world religion, right, the whole thing. And we've seen this, like the Scorched Earth project, like this debilitating deal that's happened to the United States. First through the controlled opposition, taking out nationalists, populists, and it's happened worldwide, right? COVID-19, the pandemic, brings the economy to a standstill, the entire world to a standstill, a worldwide agenda implemented. You see the fall of the United States with the 30,000 National Guard troops, right? Trump, Israel, the whole thing. And it was all prophetical too, including the 70 years of Israel. Trump being Cyrus, printed on a gold coin. The outsider made king of Babylon, and the collapse at 4 years, right? It's like you couldn't write this any better. Biden, double-minded. Like it just continued on. And all these prophecies too. Like astrological alignments, Nostradamus prophecies, biblical prophecies, right? Like to support this. So like even religious spiritual circles had something to support it. So we watch this play out, right? Just like we've seen with the Bolshevik Revolution, instead of Operation Trust, the anti-Bolshevik, populist nationalist group designed through intelligence to target those that were going against the Bolsheviks, to kill them, take them out of power, right? We've seen the same thing, right, with the Nazi playbook of Trump, the character assassination, him taking all the anarchists, the Christians, the populists, the nationalists, the conservatives, all under his umbrella. That way, when this character assassination, remember Stalin, the best way to control the opposition is to lead them, right, through the Trump agenda, right? So it's like everybody goes on this side, they get targeted by the government, January 6th Capitol riots happen, all the fucking impeachments, Operation Warp Speed, the motherfucking vaccine agenda gets rolled out under Trump and kicked into full gear, right? Then we see the bullshit elections happen, the Transition Integration Project of 2020 showing this crisis acting bullshit that was designed to take us out. 2 out of 3 scenarios of the elections had Biden winning in some fucked up sketch shit, and that's exactly what happened. Just like every other good crisis we've ever seen, from Sandy Hook to Las Vegas to Paradise, California to whatever, Boston, I mean you name it, Buffalo, you name it, right? We can go on and on. Dayton, all of them, right? There are always these FBI, CIA drills that are ran the same day, including like 9/11, but end up being this domestic terrorist shit, lone wolf shit, right, to be able to target innocent Americans. And the Trump, whole movement was to target all of the patriots and the pro-Americans to bring in this communist socialist state that we're in now, where Biden's just a figurehead. He's like the king and queen of fucking England. It's not real political power, it's just symbolism. Right, as this socialist government continues to work in the background, just like UK and EU, right? So this usurpation of this democratic power, this capitalist system, is now kind of going down. The social engineering has been rolled out, the trans agenda, with this technocratic society bringing us into the transhumanist agenda, and all of this kind of ushering us into this new age. COVID-19 comes, puts a halt to it all. Bam, scorched earth kicks in, right? We see a destruction of the supply chain, fuel, which backs up the dollar, the petrodollar, is because of oil and fuel. Now the electrification agenda rolls out, and all of this is like this crumbling of the United States, this weakening. And this rollout of the World Economic Forum, the Council of Foreign Relations, the United Nations, World Health Organization, right? This Klaus Schwab, Great Reset, COVID-19. They say the next one is a cyber attack, cyber polygon, which will make the first one look like it wasn't shit. And now we see gene editing, CRISPR technology, data mining, right? It's like all of this technology being done under the skin, and now killer robots. It's like through the social engineering too. It's like if it wasn't so obvious at this point, I don't know if it ever will be for some people. It's like, where do we draw the line too? Like, when it comes to these things, it's like, what are we willing to stand for? What are we willing to sit back and just allow to happen? Or are we going to continue to allow them to silence us, to censor us, to cancel us, and to just ruin and stop the debate? Or are we going to kind of like say, hey, it's like humanity's on the line here, our children, our grandchildren. Right, our lives are on the line here. If we continue to go to this future, we know where it ends. Every science fiction weirdo novel has been written to tell us where it ends. It doesn't take a genius to see. It's like the destruction of religion, and this has all been written now. Alice Bailey, the 10-point plan of the New World Order, this kind of orchestrated destruction of the nuclear family and all of this, our morality, the fabric of society that keeps everything going and pushing forward. It's like been imploded. It's like, what do we have left? What keeps us human? What keeps us conscious? What keeps our spiritual essence, our free will continuing forward? It's now become an illusion. They're calling Jesus fake news. They're calling free will fake news. They expect you to be part of the hive. They expect you to be part of the consensus. And anything that goes against the consensus, which that's what a democracy is a majority rule, right? That is a socialist government. It's like anything that goes against that majority consensus is wrong. No individualism. No divine spark. Divine creativity, but everybody fitting into a politically correct mold. It's like, at the end of the day, I always think like, I just want people to, not only to be able to live with themselves and lay their head on their pillow at night and feel like they've been a good person, they've done the right thing, they've done right by their religion, their family, their ancestors, right, one another, but to just be true and unique to themselves. And I feel like that's what spirituality teaches us at the end of the day. It's like, to be true to oneself is to truly live. Right? So to continue to try to fit in a mold and do what society expects us to do, we're robbing ourselves of the unique experience of life. So. Tonight has been pretty intense, guys, honestly. And we'll try to finish it on a more positive note. It says the archaeologists believe they found the temple of Poseidon in Greece. And we looked at the esoteric teachings, and what did it tell us? It tells us we are the children of Poseidon, right? The area where the remains were found is prone to tsunamis, which would make sense because Poseidon is the god of tsunamis. Archaeologists discovered the remains of what they believe was the Temple of Poseidon near Semikon, Greece, according to the report by Fizz on Wednesday. The remains were unearthed and are being researched by the Austrian Archaeological Institute together with researchers from the Johannes Gutenberg University, Mainz Kiel University at Ephoret and Antiquities of Els. The location where the remains were found corresponds to the area referred to by the ancient Greek historian Strabo, who described the shrine some 2,000 years ago. Why do researchers believe it's the Temple of Poseidon? The area, which is near the Peloponnese, is known to have been hit with multiple tsunamis in prehistoric and historic times. While it would seem that people would avoid such an area, this could actually be further evidence that to remain in the Temple of Poseidon because he was believed to be the god responsible of earthquakes and tsunamis. The remains were first found in 2021, but it wasn't until a few months ago that the archaeologists realized that they were responsible for the Temple of Poseidon. So it's like, and they believe we're the children of Poseidon. It's like, Ea, Enki, when we look at the Sumerian gods, right? The Lord of Water, the Lord of Earth. We're made up of 80% water. The Earth is 80 or 70% water. So it's like, it makes a lot of sense, guys. Anybody into the esoteric knows water is one of the main elements of this world. So I just thought that was incredibly interesting, right? Something to look at. So I do believe here, let me switch over here before we wrap this one up. The World Economic Forum meeting 2023, record attendance expected at Davos for the World Economic Forum. The list of the attendees at the World Economic Forum's annual summit in Davos has been leaked. The list includes FBI Director Chris Wray, the CEO of Amazon, BlackRock, and Pfizer, top officials of the Gates Foundation and the Soros Network, and the publisher of the New York Times. Among the other record, 52 heads of state and nearly 600 CEOs. And I do have the list of the dudes that'll be there. It's got like fucking Tony Blair and John Kerry and all kinds of shit. But yeah, the heads of Pfizer and all that. 2 monster storms about to bomb already drenched California this weekend. The crazy weather in Cali after 16 days of relentless Pacific storms, including a bomb cyclone, a constant stream of atmospheric rivers. Most of the day, the Bay Area is slated to see a comfortable break in the wet pattern. This is thanks to a shift in the flow of the air of thousands of feet above the ground. The jet stream, its winds gradually shifting north in the coming days, meaning the storm door will finally begin to close. But before it does, 2 more storms will roll into far northern California this weekend and into early next week. Some of the rain and snow will split into the rest of the Golden State, raising the risk for light to moderate bands of rain in areas that are filled to the brim from all recent storms. You can see them. They're fucking huge. This shit is unnatural, and a lot of people believe it's geoengineering. Snowmageddon. Mammoth Mountain Ski Resort in California closed due to too much snow. 13 feet in 9 days since the start of the year. Thanks to the continued snowfall, Mammoth Mountain, California has reported 40 to 54 inches from this current storm, with an expected snow accumulation of 22 to 28 inches today.
When you wake up and want to go on the back porch,
wow. 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 That is crazy. That is fucking crazy. That is a lot of snow, dude. Wow. Crazy. 21-foot orca dies on Florida beach. A 21-foot orca that beached itself in Florida Wednesday morning has died. According to the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, SeaWorld will be performing her necropsy to establish the cause of her death. The Department of the female orca. So you can see, giant orca dies in Florida. It's sad. but SeaWorld will be doing the autopsy. California weather war. Storm death toll rises to 17 as flooding and mudslides prompt evacuations. More rain is dropping across California on Tuesday, threatening more flooding and disruption as part of a parade of storms that have forced thousands to evacuate and prompted dozens of rescues in recent days and left more than 17 dead in recent weeks. More than 20 million people across California are under flood alerts as a risk of mudslides also spreads to the Los Angeles and San Diego areas. Further north in San Francisco, a flash flood warning was issued until 3:30 p.m. According to the National Weather Service, the warning, which covers about 1 million people, comes as strong thunderstorms move onshore, bringing with them heavy rain, powerful winds, and hail. Across Central California, Weather Services officials had received more than 24 reports of strong winds by Tuesday afternoon as the rain moved in.
Dangerous situation in California. Severe weather pummeling the state with rivers now overflowing and thousands of customers without power. Rescue and recovery efforts are underway as people across the Golden State deal with torrential rain and flooding yet again. Relentless rain causing dangerous flooding across California. This roadway in Montecito turned into a muddy river. Highway 101 in Gilroy engulfed. In Chatsworth, 2 people rescued from a giant sinkhole and taken to the hospital with minor injuries.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy in California, man. The extreme winds, the extreme snow, the extreme rain. Right, they're just having a hell of a time. There's been, 3 atmospheric rivers in a row. It says Utah Great Salt Lake is on the verge of collapse and could expose millions to arsenic-laced dust. Utah's Great Salt Lake, the largest saltwater lake in the Western Hemisphere, could be set to disappear within the next 5 years, exposing millions of people to the toxic dust trapped in the Triton Lake bed, according to scientists. The urgent warning issued on January 4th by a team of 32 ecologists and conservationists says that the lake has lost 73% of its water and 60% of its surface area since 1850 and is facing unprecedented danger without emergency measures to add an additional 326 billion gallons of water in the lake per year, or enough water to fill nearly 500,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. It could pass the point of no return by the end of 2024. Right, so they're saying by the end of 2024 this thing will disappear, putting a bunch of arsenic in the sky. This is what gaslighting looks like by the government-sponsored mainstream media. There are clear distinctions between the 2 classified document cases involving President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. Classified documents found: Donald Trump, at least 325 total documents, 60 top secret. Under investigation for obstruction in archives first reached out to Trump's lawyers. Joe Biden, 10 total documents, some top secret, cooperating, lawyers found and alerted archives. World Economic, and it's like they're pushing, they're pushing the Biden didn't do it as bad, but we've seen today that there are a lot of updates saying that maybe it's even worse, right? So I think that's interesting, right? The conspiracy to convince us that electric stoves are better than gas stoves is out in full force. By the way, here's Jill and her electric stove. Oh my God, it's like they are pushing that now, right? So I just want to, put that out there. Let me see if I can find the article on that. Here we go. See if we can find it. But they are pushing that, guys. Like, that's a new thing that they're pushing out right here. See, Biden not in favor of ban on gas stoves, the White House says. And I feel like this is just anything that they said that they're not going to do. They weren't going to mandate jabs either. Remember? I think so. A lot of things they said they're not going to do for the Biden White House. So, yeah. We can see with the whole electrification agenda, they're pushing this. The electrical grids don't have enough to support, our infrastructure just doesn't support this agenda whatsoever. And we see it through Build Back Better, right, which is 666, the green agenda, the electrification agenda. This is being pushed, man. Cars, everything. You know, it's like our country can't support it. This is part of the scorched earth agenda, in my opinion, to collapse the United States intentionally. We're in a new poly-crisis era, and the World Economic Forum just warned us what to prepare for. Multiple concurrent economic, political, and ecological shocks are converging to rock the globe in the next decade, and the world is playing catch-up to address them. The next 10 years are shaping up to be a transformational period for the world economy, which is under threat from a number of interrelated crises. The veteran economist is well-known pessimist Nouriel Rabouni, also known as Dr. Doom for his gloomy forecast of the future, broke down 10 massive economic challenges in his recent book, Megathreats, ranging from unprecedented debt chaos to global climate disruption. The world has faced each of these crises individually before, but experts, including Rabouni and economic historian Adam Tooze, fear that these threats could morph into a singular polycrisis, a state of risk where multiple crises intersect to amplify their collective impact. And now one of the world's premier forums for international business and political cooperation agrees we're on the brink of such a crisis. While governments and businesses leaders around the world are racing to meet short-term challenges such as rising inflation and recession risks, long-term risks may converge into a poly-crisis by the end of the decade, according to a new report on global risk by the World Economic Forum. It says, quote, "The world's collective focus is being channeled into the survival of today's crisis." The World Economic Forum's managing director, Sada Zahidi, wrote in a preface to the report, "Yet much needed attention and resources are being diverted from a newly emerging or rapidly accelerating risks." So, I mean, we have a lot fucking going on now. You can see here is the Global Risk Report of 2023. So as the world faces a set of risks that feel both wholly new and eerily familiar, the Global Risk Report 2023 explores some of the most severe risks we may face over the next decade as we stand on the edge of low growth and low cooperation era, tougher trade-offs, risk eroding climate action, human development, and future resilience. And, you know, I feel like this is what we're going to look at this, guys. In the next video, we're going to take a look at the World Economic Forum Global Risk Report. I feel like this would be something to really kind of get into and just, you know, see perhaps, you know, where they see things going for all of us. Because, you know, I'm sure we all have ideas on where this could go. And we're going to take a look at that, though. So, in the very next video, we're going to be looking at that. Harvard Medical School offers course about healthcare for LGBTQIA+ infants. The course promises to focus on serving gender and sexual minority people across the lifespan. This is fucking weird, bro. That's all I'm saying. This is weird. Students at Harvard Medical School learn about how to provide healthcare to infants who are supposedly LGBTQIA+, according to a course catalog description. And we should look at this course catalog, by the way, in the next video as well. In the course, Caring for Patients with Diverse Sexual Orientations, Gender Identities, and Sex Development, which is regularly available at the school, students are offered the opportunity to work with patients who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, or asexual, as first reported by the College Fix. Clinical exposure and education will focus on serving gender and sexual minority people across the lifespan, from infants to older adults, the description says. From infants to older adults? Infants know that they're gay or bisexual or transgender. Infants? Babies? How can babies know that? It's like that shit's just crazy at this point. It's like, God. It's like, and I feel like it all has to do with sexualizing children, and I'm just keeping it real. I feel like everything you see with this, like, you know, and it's fucked up because it's really shitty towards gay people and lesbians. It's like fucked up because most of those people are great. They're not weird. They're not on some bullshit, but they do this to try to create hate towards those groups of people, and it's sad. You know, because those are people too.
Medical College is releasing new woke standard for medical students, requiring them to consider their identity, power, and privilege when treating patients. Do No Harm Chairman and former UPenn Associate Dean Dr. Stanley Goldfarb is here to react. Doctor, not to be graphic, but if my chest is literally split open and there's a surgeon standing over me trying to save my life, why would diversity, equity, and inclusion matter one bit in that OR?
Well, good morning. Of course it wouldn't matter at all. And that's exactly what our organization is trying to push back against these standards, because they really don't speak to what physicians really do, which is to care for sick people rather than become either social workers or social warriors in a quest to change characteristics of American life. And
yeah, and that's what everything has become, you know. And it's like through this whole virtue signaling shit, you know. Like people trying to look like they're more moral or, you know, more woke, right? It's like, it's just sad because it's like we're destroying our society. From unreported truths from the Twitter files, Pfizer board member Scott Gottlieb secretly pressed Twitter to hide posts challenging his company's massively profitable COVID jabs. It's like, this is crazy. These Twitter files have come out and it's shown just how much they've suppressed the conversation when it comes to the pokey poke. To funnel his demands, Gottlieb used the same Twitter lobbyist the White House did. Fresh evidence of overlap between the company selling mRNA shots and the government forcing them on the public. So, the Pfizer director with over 550,000 Twitter followers saw a tweet he didn't like, a tweet that might hurt the sales of Pfizer's mRNA, and the tweet explained correctly that the natural immunity after COVID infection was superior to the protection of, you know what? It called on the White House to follow the science and exempt people with natural immunity from upcoming mandates. It came not from an anti, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but from Dr. Brett Giroir, a physician who briefly followed Gottlieb as the head of the Food and Drug Administration. Further, the tweet actually encouraged people who did not have natural immunity to get that shit. No matter. By suggesting that some people might not need it, the tweet could raise questions about the shot. Besides the former FDA commissioner, CNBC contributor, and prominent voice on the public policy for that, Gottlieb was a senior board member at Pfizer, which depended on the mRNA for almost half of the $81 billion in sales. And he paid Gottlieb $365,000 for work that year by Pfizer. He stepped in, emailing Todd O'Boyle, the top lobbyist at Twitter's Washington office, who also was Twitter's point of contact with the White House. The post was corrosive, and Gottlieb wrote, he worried it would end up going viral and driving news coverage. And you know what's fucking crazy? The White House suppressed tweets, and so did Pfizer. You know, people, if you think that social media isn't driven by, you know, big pharma, by, you know, politics and all of that, you're fucking crazy. Because it is. And we see now, you know, what's being pushed on all of us, because this is the agenda, this is the direction that things are headed. And you can see very obviously where the next phase is going. Didn't Klaus Schwab announce cyber attacks are the next threat to humanity? All planes in the U.S. were grounded due to a computer glitch. The White House clearly said there is no evidence of cyber attack behind the computer failure. Surely the government would be honest about this? No. All U.S. flights are grounded until at least 9 a.m. Eastern after the FAA system fails.
Right now, you're taking a look at Reagan Airport in Washington. Very quiet right now with all of those domestic flights paused until at least 9 a.m. Eastern. Just a short time ago, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg tweeted, "I have been in touch with FAA this morning about an outage affecting a key system for providing safety information to pilots. FAA is working to resolve this issue swiftly and safely so that air traffic can resume normal operations and will continue to provide updates." The full extent of the impact is not entirely clear right now, but we should note it's pretty clear that travelers are going to be dealing with flight troubles until this is fixed. Let's check in with our aviation expert, NBC's Tom Costello, who has got...
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know, you know, this is where it's heading. And it's like transportation and all that, of course, right? This is to take any autonomy away from you, your ability to move or travel or anything. It's like, it's really weird to see how far the agenda is going, how much things are being locked down, how fast things are being shut down. And it's like on a dime. When they go to the next pandemic, the next crisis, whatever it is, whether it's cyber attack, fucking fake alien invasion, World War III, or another pandemic, it doesn't matter. Economic collapse, it doesn't matter. They've got full control of the system and full control of everyone within it. It's like up to us to become able to take care of ourselves, to become completely independent of the system. So that's why it's so important for it's like to promote people that have their own business, something not dependent on the system. People that create content, people that do things spiritual, people that create jewelry, whatever. It's like take care of each other, because the more dependent on the system we become, the worse it's going to be when it all crashes down on our heads and they pull the plug on everything to get us on our knees, to get us to total capitulation, right? So it's like the whole trade and barter concept, but now it's like we all going through one another, you know, and giving value to each other and the skills and the things that we do in our everyday life. Once again, not allowing it to be kind of dealt out to machinery, right? And artificial intelligence algorithms and things to replace us and continue to use this kind of digital system to usurp human interaction. You know, so it's like, what are we willing to stand for? It's like we have to keep it there. It's like also remember our spiritual principles, our moral principles, and you know what we stand on there. And as far as what we're willing to allow things to go, it's like what you participate in and what you agree to is where they're going to continue to push things. If we don't spend our money on stuff, if we don't support things, like they won't be able to push it forward anymore. It's like we have to create our own society outside of the digital, crypto, blockchain system that's being used for this totalitarian tyranny on a worldwide scale. We know it as a new world order. So I'm going to thank all of you guys for watching me tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I tried to do this one later. Hopefully more people got to see it because of that. Make sure to check out all the new videos. I've done a lot of new videos recently, so check all of those out. If they're not, I had to take some down. I've gotten strikes on a lot of them. So check us out on BitChute, bitchute.com /bestdampodcast. Check us out on Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Join our Discord. Please hit the like, give us a thumbs up, comment like crazy. Let me know what you think about all the different stories. I'd love to hear your input. Share this link in your Facebook groups, your social media. Hit that like, subscribe, click all the notifications, and check out our other videos, guys. And consider donating, supporting. We are completely viewer powered. If you like the work, you like what I do, PayPal, Venmo, Patreon, Cash App, Facebook Messenger Pay, merch, Facebook, YouTube subscriptions, or you can book your own personal tarot reading. They're very cheap and they're awesome. Good way to look at what's going on. 513-393-2396 or email therealbestdampodcast@gmail.com. All right, man. Thank you guys for watching. I love you so much. Remember, Jesus is the truth, the way, and the life. God bless you all. I love you, and I will see you next time. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Peace.